Hello friends, today's video is a continuation of the series for beginners and beyond. I've linked the previous video in the comments and description. So, let's start with the weakest mech in this company. You most likely obtain it for free after completing the initial derby. For a certain period, it will be your strongest mech compared to what you have in your inventory because it can wield 2 weapons with 8 energy each. It's probably going to be a pair of long arms at 8 energy each. As you may have already guessed, investing resources in improving this mech is definitely not worth it because it has the worst characteristics not only among rare mechs. Its low speed, useless ability incapable of dealing sufficient damage, and a small amount of health don't make it competitive among other mechs. Its only advantage is that it's a heavy mech, potentially capable of carrying 2 weapons with 16 energy each when fully upgraded. Next up, we have this little guy, Shadow. He would be an excellent mech, posing a huge threat at this level if it weren't for one serious but. He falls into the category of light mechs, of which there are only 4 in the game, and they have a reduced amount of energy. Starting with only 8 energy and reaching 16 at maximum doesn't make him truly dangerous, even though his ability for navigational invisibility is considered one of the best in the game. Coupled with his maximum movement speed, he excels as a scout. However, he also has very little health, and what he really fears is area damage, such as the disc launcher. In general, I don't recommend investing resources in him. But if you really want to, then use him alongside the Javelin Rack 4, as engaging in direct combat is not recommended for him. He costs 1125 coins, and for that money, it's better to get the Guardian. By the way, here comes the Guardian. Among these rare mechs, he is considered the best, and for good reason. He shares the heavy energy type with Arachnos, starting with 16 energy and maxing out at 32. He has slightly more movement speed and health, and most importantly, a very useful ability. It's a real game changer, but there's a big but in this story: it has a limited range of just 30 meters. It also has its own implant that increases the range to 45 meters at rank 6. But only real lucky players will get it. By the way, it dropped for me from a regular free crate. I've seen very few players with it because the drop rate is extremely low, and you can only get it from a crate. But in any case, as I mentioned, this is the best mech not only in the rare category. In my overall mech ranking, it's in the top 10. This is the first mech where it makes sense to invest resources in ranking up because you'll be using it constantly. At tier 3, there's no worthy weapon choice for it initially, so you'll start with a pair of Pulse Cannon 8 or Long Arm 8. But you'll really feel its usefulness with more suitable weapons. At the very least, you should equip it with Voltaic RPG 8, which you can buy in the next tier 4 for just 310,000 credits. However, you'll only need them as a stepping stone, so there's no point in upgrading them. The real potential of this mech will be realized when it gets a pair of railguns. As you may have noticed in my videos, I even use this setup at the highest level because it's one of the best combinations. Alright, let's move on. Next up is the Tengu. This is the 4th and final light mech in the game. Once, before the big grade update, it was a close combat menace. In a jump and for a few seconds afterward, it becomes invisible, just like Shadow. And upon landing, it deals damage and slows down enemies. Combined with the upgraded Shotgun 8, which used to have a 25% damage buff, Tengu turned into a real monster. However, now it's just a shadow of its former power. As I mentioned earlier, its major problem is the low amount of energy. After the grade update, it also doesn't have enough health to pose a significant threat. While it has a decent amount of health, it's not enough to take down legendary mechs in close combat. However, theoretically, if money is not an issue for you, you can give it a try. For free-to-play players, I recommend avoiding it because you'll likely be disappointed. At tier 4, for progressing further in the gear hub, I recommend going for the Stalker instead. By the way, let's talk about the Stalker. This is a unique mech, and its uniqueness lies in the fact that it belongs to the attacker category but has a moderate amount of energy, similar to mechs like Slingshot, Ares, and Zephyr. However, its ability turns it into a glass cannon. When it activates its ability, it deals 50% additional damage, just like the legendary Brickhouse, but at the cost of receiving 25% more damage. Additionally, when it kills an enemy under this ability, it regains 10% of its health, which is very useful in tournament mode 5v5. What makes it even more impressive is when it unlocks its ability with an implant that adds 30% more damage. So, at maximum, you'll have only 24 energy, but with the active ability and the implant, you'll be dealing damage as if your weapon had a total of 43 energy. I think the analogy is clear to you. For example, Onyx has 32 energy at maximum, and when he takes a pair of 16 energy discs, he'll deal much less damage than a Stalker with a pair of disc launcher 8. And yes, Stalker truly unleashes its real potential when you purchase disc launcher 8 for it on the next tier 5 for 826,000 credits. By the way, Stalker deserves to be upgraded to at least 4 stars to get 16 energy and the ability to carry this pair of disc launcher 8. In enclosed spaces with ceilings, it causes a lot of trouble for enemies. And last but not least, the Ares. You'll be glad to have this mech. It has a decent speed for a tank, enough health, and a shield capable of withstanding even shots from an EM rifle. The shield remains active all the time until it's destroyed, unlike the Juggernaut. The shield only protects from the front and is quite wide. This can be both good and bad. I remember situations where I was in cover, and enemies took down my shield sticking out from behind the corner, which wasn't pleasant. But on the other hand, the shield's coverage radius is high, even higher than the Epic Sentinel. Ares can be purchased at tier 3, along with the Arc Torrent 6, which also happens to be priced in credits. It's the best purchase at tier 3. By that time, you should have unlocked the 5th hangar slot, which will allow you to participate in the FFA tournament mode. This pair will deliver the best results at this level. And remember the most important thing: do not spend resources on upgrades unless you are 100% sure you need it. Almost always, buying something new is better than upgrading something old. Considering the need to progress through the gear hub, it's literally more profitable to buy new items to earn stars than to spend resources on upgrading ranks. Even this Ares, while good, will be outclassed by the Epic Sentinel at tier 6, which is also a tank with a shield but superior to Ares. It has more health, movement speed, and a stronger shield. It will start at rank 4 and, accordingly, have 16 energy like other mechs with a moderate amount of energy. And the most important thing is that to obtain it, you only need to spend 375,000 credits. So, I don't recommend spending even credits on leveling up. It's better to save them for buying other items and advancing through the tiers in the gear hub. When I demonstrate gameplay, it's already the fully upgraded version of the mech and weapons. Playing with a rare mech against legendary opponents, which are much better, is challenging. On the other hand, when you play with an Ares with only 3 stars, encountering a Bastion is highly unlikely, so on your level, this mech isn't as bad as it may seem. As always, please like, subscribe, and leave comments if this video was helpful to you. Making these videos takes more effort than usual, and it's nice to know that my work was not in vain. The next video will feature Ares and the Graviton Beam. Enjoy watching.